Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Professional Genealogist Reacts live stream. Today, I'll be answering questions and talking about my trip from this past week up to my ancestral lands of Alliance in New Jersey. So, hello, everybody. Let's see. We've got Leslie coming in from Santa Cruz. Welcome. Anna coming in from Western New York. Stig from Oslo. We have Irene coming from Oak Island. We have Tasha coming from Minnesota. Stephen Millsap, hello, coming in from North Dakota. Question that could be on or off topic. In your research, what is the first surprise you found out about your family? I don't know. I never found in my own family like any like major. Well, actually, no. I guess the first big surprise I found in my family that was really surprising for a lot of us was that my great grandmother had a brother. So my great grandmother Jenny lived to be 109, and when I started to build the family tree, I started to see this brother in her tree, her brother Joseph. And I asked my mom about it. She didn't know about a brother. She was like, I grew up with Graham Jenny, I would have known. I grew up with her myself, she lived to be 109. And I asked some other cousins, and they all were like confused. And then my great uncle actually confirmed it, like, oh yeah, I remember the brother. But he passed away like years ago. So I guess that was kind of the first big surprise, but it wasn't like any sort of like, this person's not this person's parent like we expected or anything like that. It was all kind of, I guess, the big surprises were all kind of distant sort of surprises. Hello, Alan from Madison. Hello, Alexandra coming in from Germany today in Frankfurt, or since Frankfurt. In Frankfurt, I think. Nick Brokema, Goedenavond from Groningen in Netherlands. Goedenavond. Hope you're doing well, Nick. Stephen, mine was finding out my half-aunt wasn't related to me at all. So the half-aunt turned out to be a no-aunt, or a thought-to-be aunt. Hello, Weeping Scorpion, coming from Faroe Islands. We've got Debs. Finally, I am here for the start. Yep, you are here right at the beginning. Bervar, hello. This week I'm calling from Bergen, Norway. Very cool. Adam Scott coming in from Seaford, England. Hello. Eric Sheridan from Kansas City, Missouri. Hello. My cousin Catherine Michael, UK, checking in. Hello. How you doing? The Enabled Disabled from Sweden, doing my genealogy while listening. Wonderful to have you. Debs, remember, I'm from Bournemouth, UK. All right. I'll have to try to remember. Hello, Sharon, coming in from New York. We've got Elias coming from Northwest Ohio. Wonderful to have you. Lightning Fan coming in from Tampa Bay. And to tie it all off, Charlie, evening to our wonderful moderator on here and on our Discord. So as usual, perfect time to mention, if you're not on the Discord, definitely get on there. A lot of people helping each other out. You can ask questions and just, cool community, bunch of people chatting and stuff. And yeah. So I wasn't sure which we should get into first, if I should go ahead and start answering questions, or if I should talk about the last week first. So I think I'm going to put up a poll because, hey, why not use some of these tools I'm slowly but surely figuring out how to use. So what to do first? Alliance week or questions? All right, let's see. So perfect timing. An ad ran just as your name, as I started mentioning your name. Sorry about that. Well, you get another mention because Now you're back. Hello, Lightning. Hello. So, okay. All right. Alliance is winning out so far. We've got 10 votes in. Oh, they're coming in. They're coming in. Jumping around, jumping around. So either way, I think it'll be interesting stuff. So yeah, it's looking like Alliance is winning out, which I sure do not mind. Fresh in my mind. I mean, at this point, 65% against 35%. We have 21 vote. Okay, yeah. So 21 votes out of the 29 people it says that are here, which could be more. So I'll give it a little bit more time. But yeah, so I guess to start out, before we get into anything, but it looks like I'll talk about Alliance anyway, is so I went up to Alliance last Saturday. So I was up there for less than a week, but I went up because this week, if you do not know, is Passover week, Pesach, and so lots of seders going on all around the world. And so I went up there to be there for Passover, as well as do some genealogy stuff. And so when I talk about Alliance, I'll be talking mostly about the genealogy stuff. So I see we're at 22 votes out of the 29 people here. I think I'm probably going to go ahead and just end it now. End the poll. So we're going to talk about Alliance. Hi, I love the map. By the way, your face keeps going in and out of focus. Is there a setting you can change to keep it more steady? Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. I need to look into it. I got this, what's supposed to be a really high-end webcam, the Kaio Razor 4, I think, or the Razer Kaio Pro something. So it's supposed to do really well. Let me see if I can mess with anything. And it's supposed to be high definition. Let's change the fade a bit. Maybe that'll help. Oh, oh no, I've disappeared. Yeah, I think that. Let's see if I adjust my lighting, if that kind of helps a bit. There we go. Let's just see if there's any other settings I can change in here. God, yeah. Untick the auto under focus. I'll have to look and see how to do that, because right now I'm just running it through the StreamYard app. So yeah, I'm not sure if I have it, but I think this looks, I don't know. We'll see. We'll play around with it. It's not going to matter much because I'm not going to be the main focus anyway. Pun intended. So the first thing I kind of want to talk about is something I posted about on Twitter. And let's see. So a couple of nights ago, I guess it would have been Wednesday night, I went to the Alliance Cemetery late, very late at night, which worked out really well because it allowed us to wait. Oh, is it not going to let me? Oh, it's not going to let me share it with audio. Okay, I'm going to have to figure out all right, I'm going to have to play it through Twitter then. But I went at night, and one of the big things about going at night is with some stones that are very difficult to read. A non-intrusive way to help try to understand the stone is when you go at night, using your flashlight and the light to move around to get a different angle on the lettering so that you can then be able to read it. And so we did that for a couple of graves, where I went with this local rabbi. Well, he's not really local to New Jersey, but he helps out with the Vineland community with running things. And so, he speaks Hebrew, he speaks Yiddish, he understands it. And so we went at night so that he could help me in not only reading it, but also understanding exactly what it meant. And it was actually really useful as well as extremely interesting. So I'm not going to do that first. Do that. So I'm going to share my screen. I just need to find, yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's try this. I don't know if oh yeah, perfect. Sweet. All right. So this is my third great grandmother's gravestone. Now this one we didn't need the light angles as much. But the interesting thing about this stone is I've had a big difficulty in understanding what it means, and a lot of people have that I've asked, because it's whoever did it probably didn't know Hebrew, and he's going to talk about that in the clip a little bit. But basically, like, there's small errors that once we kind of figured it out, it was like, okay, that totally makes sense. And the guy trying to read what it's supposed to be and doesn't fully know Hebrew, and then probably did it wrong.
Pei Nun is Ponitman. That's an acronym for Ponitman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here it lies. Isha, and then Bessie or Bassi.
So what's interesting? So here,
Best Aleph, Samach Yud.
So the samach here, what they actually use, that's not what would be an S. So it's supposed to be a samach, which is an S. Instead, they use the letter that's an M, and it's like there's two M's in Hebrew. I wonder if I could bring it up. But there's two M's in Hebrew, and they're used in different ways. And the one they use there is supposed to be the one at the end. So this is the one that they use, and that's the M that's supposed to be in the middle, this letter right here. But what the samat's supposed to be, the S. Why can't I see it? Why am I missing it? Where is this? Give me a second. But just to kind of explain, like, the what's going on with why it seems weird. Oh, that was the Sama. Which am I messing up? Maybe I'm messing it up. See this? All right. my understanding of Hebrew is showing.
Bat. And it's Heiresh, which acronym Harav Reb. Yosef. This is a little chipped here. Yosef. Niftara. Passed away. It's missing. Oh no, Niftara. This is the hay. It's supposed to be the hay of Niftara. Passed away on Zion. ER. Puff Reish Ayin, 5,670. Tin Tziva. Tin Tziva. This is also supposed to be a bet. See, here's another mistake. This is two hays. It's supposed to be a bet. And in every word is a like an acronym sign, which is Tehei Nishmata Tzrura B'Tzrur HaChaim. May her soul be bound to the bound of life. You're right about someone that doesn't know Hebrew, because there's a few mistakes here. It seems like this one is supposed to be a hey, this one's supposed to be a bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very interesting. Thank you, Bervar. I did pull this up so you can see the two. So this is the M, the what would be an M in Hebrew, and it's mem. So this is in the middle of the letter, and this is at the end. And so that's what's on the stone. Whereas I want to pull it up in there we go. This is the Sama. Oh wait. I just realized I'm not sharing this properly, so you all can see it. You're all just like, whoops-a-daisies. See, that's the problem with when I use StreamYard. If I share to have audio, I can only share a singular tab. Whereas when I'm jumping back and forth through pages, I'm sharing the full window. So, okay, so here's what would be an M. So mem. So here's what you'd use if you're doing Hebrew. It's in the middle of the letter, the M, and here's if it's at the end. And then the Samech, which is the letter it's supposed to be, is this. So you can see why someone who wouldn't know Hebrew might get that mixed up in then writing the stone. So I don't think you're gonna be able to hear them now, but yeah, so you can see these letters here. That's supposed to be an S and an S. And this is what tripped us up a lot for tripped me and everyone I asked to translate it up, was that M, it makes it seem like Bemi. And then here, the bot, what's supposed to basically mean, daughter of, in a sense, it's kind of written in a weird way. And then her father's name, which we then realize, it's supposed to be Joseph, because we see with Bessie, it should have been Bessie. So then it must be Yosef. So yeah, very, very interesting. Alliance, New Jersey. My great-grandfather was born in Vineland. I was there a year and a half ago, found his father's grave. Turns out the marker in New York where we thought he was buried is just a cenotaph. Yeah, so Alliance Cemetery is a really cool cemetery to check out, even if you don't necessarily have family there. It's a very interesting and historical area, but there's actually a lot of different cemeteries around there. And this was my first time. This trip was my first time going to visit other cemeteries. Do I have this stuff with me? I could probably get it going in a second. So I went and visited a cemetery in Carmel. So let me pull up a map of the area. So I went to Carmel, which is another one of the Jewish agricultural communities. So I guess I should also mention that this community that I'm talking about, this is the first successful Jewish agricultural community in the United States, which was founded in 1882. And it was founded near Vineland in New Jersey. It's basically halfway between Atlantic City and Philadelphia. So we've got Philly here, Atlantic City here, Vineland right here. So here's Vineland. And they found it here. You can see there's Alliance. Now, Alliance is technically 3 communities together in a sense. So there's Alliance, there's Brotmanville, which is to the north, and then there's Norma, which is to the south. And those are kind of the main 3 of what's the Alliance area. But there's a ton all across southern New Jersey. And, there were other Jewish agricultural communities. And some of those include Carmel, Deerfield, Rosenhain, Woodbine, and a bunch of others. But my father's family, my great-grandfather, Harry Ross, had a sister who married a guy whose family was in the Carmel community. And so she then went to the Carmel community, had a bunch of kids there. And that's also where her parents, so my great-great-grandparents, went to live at the end of their lives, as far as I believe. So when I went to the cemetery in Carmel, I wanted to find their graves. I knew she was buried at this cemetery, but I wasn't sure if they were. I don't think they are. I haven't really found any death records necessarily. I found one on the father, possibly, but the name was Benjamin Rosenberg. And it's like such a common name. It's so hard to really figure out. But you can see how close they are. I mean, here's Vineland. So the main area of Vineland. Then we have Alliance right here. So this is actually the split for anyone who knows New Jersey. It's like Salem County and Cumberland County. The line is like right around here. So a lot of these communities are in Cumberland County, whereas Alliance and Norma and Brotmanville are in Salem County. And that seemed to be I realized that seemed to be a big part of the split, I guess, between some of these communities. But the cemetery that I went to, let's see, I'm going to have to try to remember where it was. Let's see. This is a little bit harder than on Google Maps. Was it further? Oh yeah, it's further down south. That's why I'm not seeing it. So down here is another town called Millville, which interestingly enough, I recently found out they're known for they have these specialty burgers that they put the Millville sauce on or something like that. Okay, here we go. So the cemetery, if I am correct, this is the cemetery right here. So this is the Carmel Cemetery. And I went and visited here. This is the first time I ever went there. And my great-grandfather's sister, she was buried right about here, one of these graves over here. I can't remember exactly which. And then a bunch of her kids and then also members of her husband's family are kind of buried over in this section. And I was hoping to find, my great-great-great-grandparents buried here because I have the census records to show they were living in this area with her, or at least my great-great-great-grandmother was in 1920. And because I found a Benjamin Rosenberg who's listed as dying in Cumberland County in 1919, I assume that's them, but I haven't gotten the official birth record or death certificate of Benjamin, so I haven't been able to see in depth how true that is. But when I went, I ended up going right when the groundskeepers, the people that were taking care of the cemetery, got there. And interestingly enough, the gentleman who was basically taking care of everything, he came from a family that was kind of big in the Carmel area. And one of his cousins married one of the Kotler cousins. So my great aunt Minnie married a guy named Harry Kotler. And so it was kind of funny because I didn't say anything to them when I saw them because I didn't realize until later. But it's kind of funny afterwards realizing, oh, wow, I have all these crazy connections with all these people, but it's on, my mom's side in Alliance, and then in Carmel, it's on my dad's side. But just kind of an interesting aside that there are all these different communities. So that was one of the things I did was I went and I walked the entire cemetery and took photos of a bunch of stuff. And I did take a little bit of video while I was there, because I'm planning to do a vlog about, an actual video about the trip. But then one of the other things that I did was that I did some metal detecting. So I asked Will Levin, who owns a lot of the land around that area, including land that my ancestors used to own, if I could go metal detecting on my ancestors' land. And he said yes. And so I went and I did that. And so to kind of show it, so here's the layout of Alliance. So here's Alliance Cemetery, big cemetery. And here's the main drag through the area. The calling it like it's Gershel Avenue. And if you saw the live stream that I did, I was right here at this is the Historic Alliance Synagogue. And so what we did was my ancestral land is in this area. I'm not going to point it out exactly. But we went and Will had a friend that did a lot of metal detecting. And so he agreed to come and help me out because this was my first time ever. And we did the metal detecting on the land and didn't find anything too crazy, but found some stuff that maybe links back to my family's time there. But it was definitely enough of, enough to get me going. Like, yeah, I'm definitely coming back to do this again. And, yeah, hoping to do it there and as well, possibly do a bit more too around the area. So I know some other areas where I had family members who lived too. So I think, okay, I'm going to try to figure out if I can do this and if so, how. But I did. So I want to show some of the other graves where he laser kind of was breaking it down. The only problem is I want you to actually hear the audio. So I'm going to have to figure out if I can do it this way. I think I can do it through my Dropbox or something like that. Let me see. Okay. Yeah. So this is going to be kind of a weird video. For one, let's see. Am I going to be? Yes, I can. Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. So for one, what's going on here? Actually, okay, wait. Maybe let me choose a different one. But basically, what's going on here is we realized that if we, manipulate the light, we could get a better angle on things. And so let's see, which one is this? All right, let's see. All right. We're going to need to stop sharing and reshare in a way where you can hear it. Bop, 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 bop. Okay.
Because it's right here. I just want to show you. If you look at my third great grandmother's grave again. So if you look at the lettering, notice how it's all scratched.
Oh,
but I would if you could read this one. I doubt it, but this is one that I've spent.
The right lighting. So this one is the same, the top line. And it's Ha'isha. It's also scratched out here.
Yeah.
Ha'isha.
It was so disappointing. I don't know how well you can see it on the screen, but basically I got to the grave and you can see clearly over where the lettering is, they were scratching only on that area and not elsewhere, which to me says that somebody's been there. Either they were trying to clean it to see it, or maybe like someone put a bunch. One of the tricks that people try to do is they put sand on the graves and then wipe it away, and the sand kind of fills the crevices to make it readable. But then it can cause issues like this, especially this kind of a stone. This is kind of like a sandstone sort of stone, so it wears away really easily. And the other thing people may have been doing is just taking, putting the paper down and taking chalk and doing that. But what happens is it causes these issues. And so, last time I visited, I don't remember seeing that, which makes me think that sometime in the past few years, the last time I was up there was 4 or 5 years ago, but that somebody since then had gone and done that to the grave. And it just really, really, honestly kind of angers me a bit, because for one, we already have such an issue with it because it's so illegible. Her name in English was just barely legible to be able to figure out it's hers. And then the stone next to hers, which for a long time we thought might have been her husband, which now we know it very likely isn't, basically illegible. And it's kind of the same sort of stone and all that. So it just, that kind of stuff's just really disappointing.
Woman.
But so I was trying to show him that, and as we started to do that and I was showing him, he started to see like, oh wait, the light, if you move it this way, it'll look, I can read it. So that's what kind of happened.
See if I can get some. Oh, that actually might work pretty well.
This is Bat. So this is the name, right? You know her name?
Her name's Rebecca. Looks like it. The Raish, the Bot, maybe.
So I'm going to kind of fast forward a bit.
So here, wait a second.
So you can see right there, Ekoff. But that's why the videos like this gets so
here from
great,
here
is because we're using the light on my phone.
Better.
Yeah.
But it also took beyond just doing this. It also took us then going to her grandson's grave, who we then realized was named after her father. That helped us then actually decipher the entire grave. Like we were able in the end to decipher each line of the gravestone. And I've spent years trying to get it figured out. And there would have been no way with photos. One of the things I did when I went to the cemetery, and this is a trick people can use if you have a stone that's very hard to read and you're taking photos and you just want to try to make sure that, you can get a good photo. Use your camera and change the settings so that you take like 5 or 6 different photos of the grave in variable lighting. So what I would do is I usually do like a really dark, setting. Always try to keep the ISO if a little bit, on the lower side, like 100 or 200, so you get, less issues. But basically just kind of dark and then a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, and then almost all the way to kind of like not overexposed completely, but like slightly overexposed. So just, some tricks to when you're in a cemetery trying to, because especially a cemetery where it's far away, where you really only get so few times to go, and otherwise you'd have to rely on other people. It's better to just kind of be careful. So that's one of the tricks. Before we did this, I had actually been telling him a little bit about that, and that's what prompted us to be like, whoa, well, the cemetery's right out back, because, we were right at the house right near the cemetery. It's like, well, let's go.
Wait.
Oh, okay. So like the month of Shavat.
Wait, I don't know. You can look up the date.
Let's see if I can.
Man. This looks like, this is an iron or a pay? Before I looked like an iron. But looks like an iron.
Yeah.
But Alina would have another. It could be the mother's name, Alina.
Huh. You know what's interesting about that is that her granddaughter's name was Lena.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she had a granddaughter named Lena.
So this over here is definitely Shafka. Shafka means left, something, the soul left the body.
Right.
And the next word is Shafka. I think it's La Hashem or Loi Hashem. It's a short for to God, to Hashem.
Right.
Who did you say before about Raphael?
It's him right here because they had the big old E.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So this is I'm not gonna be able to it's not gonna let me rotate it because the video is too long.
E. So here's
You know, probably it's easier even at night. Maybe could it be better at night? Than at day?
it. Honestly, could be because of manipulating that
Right.
shadow.
Right, the shadow. Yeah. So here it actually says. So, what is it on top? E for Ekov?
E for Ekoff, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, and the sides. These are flowers. Or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look on the right side, it's the cleanest side, and it gives you a good idea of
So
that.
here it says Ponitman. What's here? Starts here. Looks like it starts here. Ponitman. It's the same from every tombstone. Here lies. Habochor. Habochor means the teenager, the unmarried man.
Yeah.
Israel. First guess is Zelig.
Here, take a look on the camera. Actually.
Oh, I should have done that before. It's Zain Ayin Lamed, but you can't see the rest. I'm going to say Zelig. Israel. Or it's. There's dirt in here, you know.
Yeah.
It looks like Zelig. Yeah, it's Zelig. See the Gimel here.
Yeah.
See the Gimel here? Yeah, it's Zelig. Totally Zelig. This is Yud. Zayin Ayin Lamed Yud Gimel. Israel Zelig. Okay. Israel Zelig.
Ben Mordechai Leib.
Ben Mordechai Leib.
And I know that's Ekoff, yeah.
Niftar Yom Aleph. The Hanukkah? He passed away in Hanukkah?
Yeah, that was interesting.
I don't know. I guess so. December.
No, it's May. It's May.
Oh yeah, yeah. His no, December 6th, 1909 is his death.
Yeah, so it's Yom Aleph the Hanukkah.
So he died on Hanukkah.
Yom Aleph the Hanukkah.
Wow.
Shnas Tafish Ayin. Year. If it was before New Year's, it would be 1910, right?
Right.
It says 1909. So I'm sorry, before New Year's it's 1909. Yeah, 1909. 4 plus 2, 6, 5,670. Milad, born Mishnas Tofresh Lamed Aleph.
There's definitely a lot of dirt right
You know
here.
how old he was when he passed away?
18.
Okay, so minus Tafish Ayin minus 18. So Taf Resh Samach is 10. Taf Resh Nun is 20 plus 2. Taf Resh Nun Aleph. Taf Resh Nun Aleph, I think. It's 4 plus 2, 6. 651. It is an Aleph.
I was honestly
Tafish
so
Nun
lucky
Aleph?
to have him there with me to be able to translate. Especially with his knowledge of, you know,
Naila Bishnas Tafish Nun Aleph.
traditions and things with gravestones, so he could point out really interesting stuff. And I think,
Vay Haya Ba'olam
yeah, what he's about to point out is one of those.
Rak Esrim Shana. That's odd.
What does that say?
He was not in this world just 20 years.
Huh.
And according to this, it should be 19, but I guess it means to say like it's rounding up or just 19. It's 20. It's 20 years old.
Yeah. So he died because he had a tooth pulled,
Oh,
and then he got an infection, and obviously 1909 they didn't have.
yeah.
So interestingly, here on the
You want to
back.
see something interesting from this
Oh
side?
yeah, sure.
These are some prints from other tombstones, I think. Some letters. If you come here, these look like letters from another tombstone. Could it be?
Oh no.
I don't know if I got it on camera, but
Okay. Yeah.
it
But
was,
here, if you look on the back,
you can see that it was really interesting.
what Will was talking about. with the broken tree.
Oh yeah. Oh,
And then you see the two doves.
Oh. Oh.
It took me a long time to figure out those were doves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I don't know what's going on. Like there's wait, no, maybe it wasn't this grave. There was one of the graves that had like an obelisk sort of thing where it was.
Is there anything on this side? No.
No, I don't think so.
There is. No? That's what I'm telling you.
So after he figured out that Zelig thing, we went back to the stone of my third great grandmother, Rebecca. Yeah, just close that out. And then we were able to figure out that on her grave, it said that her father's name was Israel Zelig. So there was some interesting stuff with that I'm not going to necessarily go into too much right now, but stuff that there are some family stories that could line up with, and we do need to figure out, is Zelig just the middle name, kind of like, a lot of people would be Svi Hirsch, where Hirsch is kind of a second name, even though Svi and Hirsch are just the same word. It's just one's Yiddish, one's Hebrew. But just kind of a name like that. So, I'm Jarrett Phillip Ross, it's not Phillip's not my last name. It's my middle name. So I want to mess around with this because as soon as I brought my back, no, I wish they just gave me a better preview screen to be able to see what the best one is. Let's try this. I'll go with that. That's fine. All right. So, I just kind of want to talk a bit about Alliance. So I don't think I'm really going to go too much into it otherwise. Let me kind of check chat because I didn't really in a second. Let's see. Hello from Abrina in Montreal. Love your videos. Going to have to make my own videos for you to react to. I haven't seen much about French Canadian genealogy on your channel. Yeah, I haven't I haven't dove into much French Canadian genealogy. Every time I think I might be diving into it, it ends up being something kind of tangential to it. So I have done a good amount of Canadian genealogy on the channel. But yeah, I haven't really touched on French Canadian stuff much. So yeah, if there ends up being something good to react to or do, yeah, definitely. That's very disappointing that it's been scratched like that. Yeah, it's really a shame. Sand is horrible. View at night with a flashlight. Yeah. Blackberry Rose. Oh, by the way, yeah, hello, Blackberry Rose. I didn't even I don't think I saw you say hello before. So hello. One of our wonderful admins. Would you or whoever's care the grave is in consider replacing or re-engraving the stone? How does that work? I don't know exactly how that works. It might be something that I'd consider. I don't, I don't know if that were to happen, I'd still like to preserve kind of the original stone in some sort of way. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because for some people too, they don't get stones until much later. So, I think it probably would depend on, the cemetery, who's running the cemetery and all of that. But yeah, that's not something I would really know. Weeping Scorpion, this is sort of making me want to pick up Hebrew again. Yeah, for genealogy, it's been really useful for me to know Hebrew, and I've learned, how to phonetically read Cyrillic to pick out names and things like that. And then lately I've been teaching myself Dutch, trying to, which has then kind of helped me a bit in reading through documents and understanding documents a bit better. So yeah, always useful. I wonder if powder could be used instead of sand, something easily dusted away, not as abrasive. Yeah, the real big difficulty I found with the whole gravestone cleaning thing is that there's a lot of things they're starting to find that can cause issues that a lot of people kind of just don't think about. And there are a lot of people who, do mean good, but then go and clean stones in a way that really actually can damage them. And they don't realize it, because it's kind of like that whole idea of with water over time can ruin something in a sense if it's going through or whatever a lot, but kind of in the same sense of like, you do something like the sand, and sure, maybe the first time you don't notice anything, and maybe, you do it a couple of dozen times and you don't really notice anything, but it's, doing it over a lot of times wears it away faster than it would otherwise. So powder possibly, I know there's stuff that, a lot of people, say this is not abrasive and won't damage stones. And, I personally don't know exactly. But yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate things. Yeah, Leslie, when it's cemeteries pay for it and take photos for billion graves and find a grave and then upload, others can transcribe it from the comfort of their own home. Yeah, that's something that I did a little bit of on this trip. I took a good amount of photos of some various graves. Although I then later, when I went to upload some of them, I found out that a lot of them had already been people had taken photos of. Yeah. Oh, I have no Jewish at all. Oh, so my Southern came out real bad. I have no Jewish at all. To the best of my knowledge, I'm just interested in the language nerdy, being another hobby of mine. Understandable. I'm restoring my paternal great-grandfather's great-grandmother's stone, cleaned it a few years ago, and I'm now repainting the words back on. Very cool. Yeah. Almost finished at a cemetery yesterday. 4,000 burials, all photographed with plot and GPS on Find a Grave. Yeah, Maven, you spend a lot of time on Find a Grave, if I remember correctly. Like you're kind of the local genie vlogger community Find a Grave wizard, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. You're the big macher in our community from Find a Grave. Daniel, hello, late again, evening, folks. Leslie says no powder, please. It leads to other issues. So yeah, that's why I wasn't sure if it's something to endorse or not. You just got to look up and see what can be good. Maven, I've restored 2 whole cemeteries now. Me and Kyle are here to hate on Find a Grave when necessary. Yeah, my Find a Grave video probably was what got you hooked into me, didn't it? So, all right. We're going to go ahead and jump into some of these questions. And as usual, I kind of did a quick little check beforehand of what I had. And I guess I'll give the, typical rundown I usually give for those who don't always watch my streams. I answer questions from the Reddit, and I will be answering questions from the chat as well. Can't guarantee I'll see or answer all of them in the chat. The only ones I guarantee I will is if you do the super chat thing or whatever, but not necessary for me to answer a question. But then for Reddit, I've scoped out a few questions that I'll be answering. And yeah, otherwise, the only other things to mention is if you go onto my Reddit, if you see questions you'd really like me to answer on the stream, upvote them, because the way that I choose them now is I go to the top and I look at all time, and I basically scroll down until I start getting questions that are marked that haven't been answered, that are, have been upvoted a lot. So basically when you upvote a lot of questions, that question has a higher chance of me answering it on a stream. Otherwise, I think that kind of covers it all. So the first question that I had scoped out is this one, which, I'm not 100% sure I understand exactly what they're asking, but I guess we'll kind of get into that. Okay. Clustering / triangulating multiple own / managed DNA profiles. Question: which tools are available for managers of several DNA profiles? Ideally taking into account these owned and known profiles to filter better results. So the first thing right off, before we even get into the rest, when I first read that, I was thinking, okay, like which DNA test has the best ability to manage multiple kits? Because that's kind of the whole thing with managing multiple kits. So it's, comes down to what sites can you manage multiple kits? Well, the sites that you can't, family tree DNA, you at best can have one person's multiple kits. So like someone that did a family finder, Y-DNA and mitochondrial DNA testing, you can have those lumped in a single profile under one kit number. But for other kits, so like somebody else's kit, you have a different login. So family tree DNA has no multiple kit management or ownership sort of thing. The next 23andMe does not have that. Basically, every 23andMe test, there's a different login. It makes it really, this makes it so annoying when you're doing genealogy for clients or multiple people, or like in my case, having a dozen different YouTubers where I'm working on their profiles right now. And honestly, over the past few months, because of the way 23andMe has it, where you like have to log in with set, two-factor authentication every single time, and like all this, hardcore stuff because of the whole hacking issue that happened last year. Every time I'm trying to work on my, on these profiles, I have to text all these YouTubers and be like, hey, you're going to get an email or whatever to get the authentication and send me the number. I'm logging in right now. And, I hope I haven't bothered too many of them too much, but I mean, it's literally basically like almost every day I'm texting at least one or two YouTubers like, hey, I'm logging into your profile right now. So those two, nothing. The next is MyHeritage, which up until recently, they only had it where, you could manage a whole bunch of kits. So you could have, I manage a ton of kits. And then you could I think you could then send that management over to another person if you wanted to, but it wasn't like you could share results as easily. But recently they updated it so that they do have it where you can share results and make it so that, you can have other people helping you with that research. The best site out of all of them, at least in terms of the long run, will have to, I have to play around with the MyHeritage one a bit more because I actually haven't done the sharing thing yet. But with Ancestry, they've had it where you could manage and own a whole bunch of DNA kits, as well as then make it really easy to share that access with people having multiple levels of access. So basically, Ancestry and MyHeritage are the best for that. 23andMe, Family Tree DNA really have nothing with that. And then for GEDmatch, you can have tons and tons of kits that you manage. You can upload tons and tons of kits. I don't know if I think they have a limit if you're not paying for a tier 1 membership on how many you can upload. I'm not 100% sure on that. So if anyone knows, put it in the comments. But I wanted to mention all of that before we get into the rest, because once he started talking more, I kind of got a bit confused about what he's exactly talking about. And I'll explain why I'm confused. So example, I manage my DNA, brother, both parents, etc. And because all grandparents died, I also manage my father's maternal brother and first and second cousins of both of my parents, each representing distinct branches of their grandparents. Basically, managing a bunch of kids. Totally understandable. I have the same thing going on. Tools don't seem to accept multiple kits. Now, this is where I started to get confused because, number one, every tool is different. And a lot of tools, it's not like you're needing to put in multiple kits in a sense. Basically, like DNA painting, you're taking information from the website and then putting it into DNA Painter. So, same thing with like, what are the odds? Like you could, use different matches from different sites and use that. What are the odds? So that's kind of the question is, it sounds like this person's talking about a specific tool, and I'm not sure which tool they're talking about. The other thing I wasn't sure about is I wonder if this person's trying to say, like, I'm trying to have a place where I can upload, or well, actually, yeah, I don't. Basically, I was thinking maybe they thought, could I upload all? I want to get all of my kits from MyHeritage onto Ancestry too, and this, and access all of their tools all at once through like some third-party site. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, okay, so I knew I wanted each bloodline. To date, I can only parse matches individually. match a parent and his or her cousin's kit I manage equals branch. Like this, like I completely do, like I don't understand what they're saying. I can only parse matches individually. Match a parent and his or her cousin's kit I manage equals branch 1. So then I was, are they saying that they want to have like somewhere where they can have a family tree that they then put the DNA kits into? Which, if that's the case, the closest thing I'd mention is genie.com, which has it where if you have your if you have DNA and family tree DNA, you can then link that DNA profile to your profile in Genie. But to be able to do that for the others that you manage, I'm not sure if you have to manage their profile on Genie too, or I can't remember exactly, but maybe that's what you're talking about. Okay. As I manage these accounts, it would be great to use them as I intend, but at a larger database level. So are you talking about like accessing every single DNA? Like you're not going to be able to upload 20 to 23andMe or Ancestry. So if that's what you're asking of, like, well, I've tested these people over here, but I want to get them to match against all the people in Ancestry. Well, you can't do that without having that person test in Ancestry. Okay, let's see. It sounds like they want to be able to see whether someone matches any of the kits they manage rather than checking one at a time. Maybe that is what it is. And yeah, the only one that you can really do that is GEDmatch, sort of. They have tools where you can see, does it match one of 2 kits, or what is it called? I can't remember exactly what they called it, so we're gonna figure it out. Let's see. So, match both or one of 2 kits. There is the multiple. You can do the multiple kit analysis, and then, oh gosh, where is it? Is that what? Yeah. Basically, it's the multiple kit analysis. If you have them all in GEDmatch, if this is the case. So, okay, but then, yeah, all right. Lastly, I've been attempting to create DNA SNP as markers for each distant ancestor by chromosome/start endpoints. If these markers were to be automatically set to represent a specific ancestor set, it could phase the data of all new matches, which basically, this is just DNA painting. You're just taking the DNA segment data, the start and endpoints on what chromosomes, painting that into your DNA painting. And then when you have your other matches, comparing that to then phase whether or not they are from that side or not. So yeah, that's basically just DNA painting. So that's good to hear that you're doing that. And then, yeah, I think they're just kind of talking about, I've been doing it for a long time, and, we've got a lot of information, and yeah. So if anyone wants to check out that stuff, and then reach out anytime. I'm a former Fortune 500 intelligence analyst. It'd be great to connect, collaborate, and develop tools. And then, oh yeah, this is the thing that I think they said I want to talk about. Okay. I'd like to learn more about the Lazarus Project. I've been manually recreating the DNA of each ancestor or ancestor couple where possible. Chromosome start endpoints, reviewing the overlapping data for every match. There's got to be an easier way than mass Excel spreadsheets. I'd like some help and better formulas if there are other database/Excel gurus here. The open match/index is a challenging formula. Yeah, so, I think that's the thing every genealogist kind of wants is, a much easier workflow system. And, I mean, it's just, there's a way to do it better than we can now. Awesome. But in terms of Lazarus, for those who don't know, basically what Lazarus is it's a tool on GEDmatch where when you have a whole bunch of descendants of one specific ancestor who are all matching each other, you can then use the Lazarus tool to then create a profile for that ancestor by using the segments that you share with all of the relatives from that same side and what they share with each other. So basically the idea being that, if everyone of that cluster of matches descends from this one ancestor, then the DNA that they all share amongst each other must have come from that ancestor or, ancestral couple. So usually it's like, if you look at the ancestral couple, whoever that child is that you descend from, that's who you would inherit all of that DNA from. But then you wouldn't know necessarily, is it coming from that paternal or maternal side or whatever. But basically, it's a way where you can create profiles of people who have already passed away. So like if your grandfather passed away or your great grandparents passed away or whatever, and then you did a DNA test and you have a whole bunch of cousins that DNA tested, and maybe even like your aunts and uncles and stuff like that, you can then put them all into the Lazarus. Or actually, let me see, because I think before I start saying exactly what you have to put in, let's see, Lazarus. So so the way that they do it is you kind of group your matches together in different ways. I'm not going to go too in depth into it because then it's just going to be a tutorial on how to use it, and I haven't used it in a long time, so I haven't. I'm not as fresh on it. But I think I'll link that for everybody. Family History Fanatics video about it, or at least I assume it's good. It's Family History Fanatics. They're almost always good. But don't go and watch it right now. Wait until later. So, okay. So So then, lastly, DNA tests are all 23andMe. There are a limited number of them that were also redundantly tested on Ancestry DNA to access that database too. Okay, and now I think that actually kind of answers it because I didn't even look at that. I didn't even notice that comment earlier. So now it makes sense. So DNA test on 23andMe. 23andMe, like I said, there's a different login for every single person. So you have to then go and log in for every single one. You can look at the shared matches to see the comparison because it'll show when you look at a match and you look at their shared matches, it'll show how much you're matching a shared match as well as just how much your match is matching the shared match. But beyond that, yes, for 23andMe, you have to log out and then log in. For Ancestry DNA, for all of those that are in there, you can then just share it. Ancestry DNA, share. So it's really, really easy to do that. Of course, it reloads. Been having so much trouble with Ancestry lately. So how to get shared matches. This goes into this. But you can see, there's a part where wait, no, this is not what I wanted. Whoops, wrong thing. Not shared matches, sharing matches. Whoops. Okay, so sharing ethnicity results and matches. You go to your DNA settings, then you do all these things, and then you can set in Ancestry. You have 3 options for the role of what they can do. A viewer can view full DNA results, but can't add or change anything. So if you are trying to get someone access in your kit and you want them to really help out in depth, you probably don't want to do this as a viewer. You probably want to have them as a collaborator or possibly even a manager. Now, for collaborator, can view the full DNA results, add notes, edit participant details, and link the test to a tree. So they're going to be able to do a lot of different stuff. And, you know, this is probably what you might want to do if this is someone where like you've hired a genealogist or something. So they're going to be able to do a lot of things, but they're not going to be able to completely manage the kit. Whereas let's say you have someone where it's like, you know, like a cousin of yours that asked you to do a DNA test and, you know, you just want to do the DNA test to help them out. And then they're just going to manage everything, or someone that you trust and you're like, yeah, go ahead and do it, because especially if you want them to be able to upload the results elsewhere. But a manager can invite others to access the results. So they're going to be able to invite anyone they want, assign and change roles, permanently delete the results, and download DNA data. So if you know, it really just depends on the level of access that you want. But Ancestry, by far, so far, has the best sharing capabilities. Next best being MyHeritage. And then GEDmatch, technically, you can throw in there too. But with GEDmatch, then, you know, you're just talking about uploading it. And then once you have a kit number for GEDmatch, you just use the kit number and you can share that with anybody. So, okay, hopefully that answered it. Hopefully that was a decent answer. This question was reviewed on the Professional Genealogist Reacts live stream on April 26th, 2024. Copy that. We haven't said, okay, good. Boom, chakalaka. Okay. So we've got that one reviewed. Oh. Okay. So, all right. So this one. Best place to look for Northern Italian Genoese genetic connections. My great-grandmother was adopted. She was a twin, and her family kept her twin brother. She used her adopted family's last name. I don't know if anyone knows which town in Italy she came from, but some cousins say that my great-grandfather went to look for her family during a trip back to Italy, but the town records had been burned. I don't know if anyone knows what town her birth family was from, except that it was in Genoa. Several cousins have done 23andMe, and we've all found matches on our other Italian lines living in the US, but none that would be her line. Where would we have the best chances of finding any connections? And Matt MRJB right here, worth considering that MyHeritage has the largest number of European members. If you test somewhere else, you can download your DNA results from whatever website and upload to MyHeritage for free to access your matches. And yes, that is the first thing that I would say as well. MyHeritage is the database that has the best European match, or the best database of European testers. And by that, I don't mean just people with European ancestry. I mean people still living in Europe, and most especially in a lot of areas of Europe that isn't as well represented in pretty much all of the other companies, including Ancestry. And this is because MyHeritage has invested for a long time in distribution centers throughout the world to give them a much wider audience of database testers. So they're also very well known for having a large South American presence in their database. So if you come from South American ancestry, you probably want to test in MyHeritage or upload in MyHeritage, because they're going to have matches still living there, and that's going to be stuff that can really help you break down the brick wall. The other thing to mention is basically just upload to as many places as you possibly can. So this person mentions uploading it to gedmatch.com. Also upload to Family Tree DNA. You can also connect it then to genie.com. And there's Living DNA, which I mean, that's not as great of a database, but also, you know, basically just casting as wide of a net as possible to catch as many cousins out there, because you just never know where that one cousin decided to test who's going to be the big breakthrough to figure this out. So that's definitely what you want to do. The other thing to really consider is having professional genetic genealogists look into it, because you may not realize that you may have really good matches that could actually help you figure this out. But it's just because, just because of a lack of, experience with it, you just don't notice it, which is something I find a lot when, a lot of people will tell me like, oh, I don't have that great of DNA matches and, this and that. And what they're really saying is, oh, well, I didn't find any, aunts or uncles or brothers or sisters or first cousins. But then they have like someone who would be a second cousin, or like a first cousin once removed, or like, something where it's like, yeah, it gives you a, kind of distant, option, because once you start to get out to that distance, people kind of don't think about it as much, but then that could be a cousin that could break through the entire thing. Now, granted that if this person is, posting on my Reddit, I would imagine that they probably already kind of know a little bit about, what to look into and matches and things like that. So yeah, hopefully that one was helpful. I think that was a pretty quick one to answer. I'm not sure if it really had much, but yeah, in terms of town records, I guess I should say before I close out on this question, but in terms of town records, don't always believe that myth of, all the records were destroyed. Even if there was a fire at an archive in the town that they came from, there still could be a lot of records out there that are held elsewhere. So, keep looking, and especially if you can find the specific town, then you have a lot more to look into about where are possible records available and how do you get to them. Okay, dokie. Let's see. Maven, also the guy I mentioned earlier asking about the nebula test, was wondering if was worth it too. Oh, okay. Let me go back. I just realized, did I miss a bunch of stuff? Yeah. I think I missed a little bit. Okay, not a whole lot. All right. So I guess I'll answer this. Also, first, nebula can be worth it depending on what you're using it for. If you just want to do the whole, well, I just kind of want to test everywhere I possibly can to get as many matches as I can, nebula is not going to be helpful because you don't really get matches through nebula. They do now have an admixture. Let's see. So as an example, here is my admixture for nebula. Italian 22.4%, Eastern Mediterranean 18.8%, Near Eastern 17.3%. Now notice there's no Jewish readings. So these are all things that would make sense with, okay, if they're not going to define things as Jewish, what's the closest populations that they're finding genetically to people who have Jewish ancestry? And these are those populations: Italian, Mediterranean, Eastern Mediterranean, Near Eastern, Arabian, North Caucasian, East Central European, Iberian, and you can see it gets further down. Now, especially with my Sephardic ancestry, some of these make a bit of sense too. Native American 0.0. So, yeah, ancestry-wise, really not much to get out of it. All right, let's do this. And then the other thing that you can do it's not going to let me show it in the way I want. So I'm not going to show it right now then. But the other thing you can do is you can link to YFull. It used to be that you'd have to do this whole thing of downloading it, then re-uploading it. It was like a whole thing. But what you can do is you can connect it to YFull. So if the test was done by a male tester with a Y chromosome, then you can get the Y DNA put onto YFull. They do also accept mitochondrial DNA on YFull, so female testers can also upload to YFull because they do. Everyone has mitochondrial DNA. Obviously, it's the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. So, once you put it on YFull, that does give you matches for your Y DNA and your mitochondrial DNA. So, if your question has to do with paternal ancestry specifically, that's when I would say that Nebula is worth it. The other time I would say Nebula is worth it is if you are trying to look much more in depth at the health stuff, or if you are kind of a real big genetics nerd and you want to look at the nitty gritty of, all of the reads and getting into each, looking at specific SNP markers and specific spots on your DNA and things like that, that's really where Nebula shines. But beyond those reasons, those three main reasons, I don't really think that Nebula is necessarily as worth it. But if these reasons do make you think that Nebula is worth it, go into my description and I have an affiliate link where you can buy the Nebula test. Doesn't cost you any extra to go through the affiliate link, but I get a percentage of sales that are done through the affiliate link, so you help out the channel. So if you are interested in doing it, you can do it and help out in supporting the Genie Vlogger channel. So, Ancestors Portal is a good Italian website if anyone is looking for Italian records. Thank you, Anna. That's one I'm not familiar with. I'll have to look into that and see if there's some good stuff for my family from Livorno in Tuscany. Okay, so let's see. How long have I been going? Not sure how much longer I want to go. I've got to do a whole bunch of stuff today in terms of helping out the family a bit, getting some stuff done. I'd looked at these. All right, I'll do this one. I hadn't looked at these ones. These ones are kind of recent, but all right. I thought this one might be interesting because this could be one that I'll have all of you kind of pipe up into. But so my family name is Kough, pronounced Co. And they were, from my research, from Bavaria, Germany. My ancestor, George Coe, immigrated to the States in the 1770s and settled in Huntingdon County, Pennsylvania. He died after 1847, unknown death date. I have no known records from Germany and very little from America, too. I'm assuming the surname was Americanized from another German surname to make it look or sound more Anglo. I was wondering if anyone has any ideas for what it could have been originally, like a spelling of it or even pronunciation. Any help would be appreciated. And Haddock56, who got a lot of upvotes on this, said probably Koch. It's a common surname, and the CH is difficult to pronounce for English speakers. The GH could be an attempt to transcribe it. So this is actually an interesting word because I've heard it pronounced in multiple ways, or an interesting name. When I was in high school, we had a teacher with this name, Mrs. Koch. So I always thought it was pronounced Koch. Then as I grew up, I remember someone talking about the Koch brothers. And I'm like, the Koch brothers? What are you talking about? And I was thinking, spelled like Coke or something, or Koke, or, and then I found out it was Koch. I was like, wait, Coke? I thought that was Koch. And they're like, no, it's Coke. So I don't know what the true original pronunciation would be. I could definitely see Coke, especially being that I'm learning German, because spelled like this Dutch, spelled like this in Dutch, it'd be pronounced Koch. So Yeah. Hello, I'm the guy who has Sardo in his results. Do you know if he already talked about it or not? I don't know what you mean by Sardo. I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you posted a question and on the Reddit, doesn't always mean I'm gonna get to it, especially super quick. So you can see this one's my most recent one I've answered so far, and this is from a month ago. So okay, so I thought that was an interesting idea, KOCH. Curious what others think, especially because we have a few of you who are in Germany. But it is interesting because this is a very common thing in the US of did the family change the name or not? And it varies depending on what, era they came in as well of how they would kind of change the spelling or what spellings they would choose. So 1700s, early family, definitely wouldn't be surprised if they changed it. A big thing would be trying to find that actual death date. I'm assuming if he died after 1847, the last record you have of him is 1847. So one way that you can kind of at least get a better range instead of just after, instead, sometime between 1847 and whatever is what's the next record where you would have expected to find him and he's not there. So like a great example is census records. So if you expect to have him in the 1850 census with his wife or whoever, and you then see that his wife is listed as a widow, well, then now, okay, born or died sometime between 1847 and 1850. So just kind of getting it very, very similar. In German sounds like your Dutch pronunciation, but softer. So not Koch, but Koch. Just Coke. Not the Dutch H, the what's a good word? Well, Groningen, but what's it like? Goedemorgen. Goedemorgen. Yeah, cook. Yeah. So in the responses, I uploaded my different tests from 23 in May. Oh, you're talking about what you asked before. I don't know. Maybe that was the last one that we talked about. I don't know. You'll have to rewind back and see if that was it. All right. So we're gonna mark this one as reviewed. So save that. Thank you, BlackBerry. So if that's you, Tomato Volador, I have not addressed your posts in this stream. When I do them, so you can see what I do, I flare it. I'll say reviewed, and then I'll post when it's done. So, all right. Well, I think I'm gonna call it for answering questions off the Reddit. I'll do a talk to you all in chat for a little bit, probably go till 4:30 or so my time. So another 8 minutes or so. Basically need to head out in a bit to, like I said, help do some errands for the family. So, yeah, any questions anyone has? Oof, getting a stretch in. The Nebula guy wanted to know if there was anything from Nebula that can be put on GEDmatch 2. I think so. I'm pretty sure you can. You might have to do some file conversion stuff. So when you go to try to download your data, is there a way I can show this without showing that? I just want to show that. All right, so I'll just read it for you. So they give you multiple options of how to download it. So you can either download a CRAM file, a CRAM file, which is a compressed BAM file, for those who are familiar with that. There's a CRAI file, that's the indexing for the CRAM file. There's a FASTQ, so that's the text files that contains the raw sequencing data. And more than likely, I think the FASTQ may be where you get it. Or the VCF, a text file that contains a list of your genetic variants. And then there's also a TBI file. I don't know all the in-depth stuff about what the differences are between the files. I don't know exactly which one would be the one to upload to GEDmatch, but I'm sure that one of those would be able to be uploaded to GEDmatch, or at the very least, one of those can then be altered probably by some third-party sites. I'm sure there's a third-party site out there of somebody who's figured it out, because that's the kind of stuff that happens in the genetic genealogy community, but figures out, oh, okay, well, if you upload the VCF file to this site, we can then create a, downloadable version that can be uploaded to GEDmatch or something like that. If anyone in the chat knows, say something and I'll pop it up. Anything for the New Brunswick Reddit question? I should mention now, if you've posted a question on Reddit asking me in the chat if I've asked or answered the question, I'm not going to really know. I have hundreds of questions in there, and yeah. So I didn't answer anything New Brunswick wise. Like I said earlier, if I've answered it, I mark it as reviewed, and then I say that it's been answered in a live stream. Matt Potter, could be an Irish surname, Keogh, I have no idea how it would be pronounced, but American transcribers often butchered Irish names as well, and because if people couldn't read or write, they couldn't really correct it. Yeah. So that's an interesting possibility. The Philadelphia map is the same one from the Benjamin Franklin stream, right? Yeah, I didn't focus on that one. I was a little late getting this ready. Well, sort of a little late, not really. I was actually hoping to start today's stream at 2:00 and just had some stuff come up that kind of slowed me down a bit. And then ended up doing it at 3. And I ended up, I was working on all this different stuff. And I actually then had to look at the clock and was like, oh my gosh, I need to stream soon. So yeah. Rob, goedenavond. Good to have you. One of our Dutchies. Hopping in here towards the end. I'm just going to go for a few more minutes. So once again, a few more minutes. Anyone has any questions? Quick questions. I won't, nothing too long. Yeah. So, I am definitely tired after this past week. It's been quite an interesting and amazing week, and a lot of walking around southern New Jersey and a lot of checking different stuff out. So yep, Fridays are busy. Yeah. So I should mention, continuing from here out, I know last week was kind of weird with, I didn't stream, and then I did a weird stream on Saturday that was like 10 minutes long on the main channel. But for those who I didn't catch the previous streams where I mentioned this, I'm not going to be doing the 2 streams a week. Before I was doing a stream on Tuesdays on this channel, then stream on the main channel on Fridays. Instead, I'm going to do streams only on Fridays, and it's just going to be every other week will be on the other channel. So this week's Professional Genealogist Reacts. Next week, we're going to have a main channel video. So I'm also going to need to figure out which. I definitely am going to do a family tree or celebrity family tree building live stream, I think, next week, because I haven't done one in a little bit. So just need to figure out which celebrity to do. So any trending celebrities for any, if anyone has any suggestions, always love to hear them too. Yeah. So, but yeah, just for those who are coming in late, I'm part of why I'm so tired is I just got back from that trip from the Alliance Colony, was down there learning all sorts of stuff, was able to, through this trip, I was able to get the names of 2 of my 4th great grandfathers who I did not know before this. I'd kind of guessed at their names. One of them I had completely wrong. One of them was Yosef. I was thinking his name might be either Pesach or Hirsch. But that was just based on the children that we knew of theirs and their names. The other one was Israel Ziegel, We don't know if Ziegel was a middle name or if it was a surname. But Israel Ziegel was the father of my third great grandmother, Rebecca. So, yeah, very, very cool. Karma, I think that my great grandmother's maiden name of Burgess tends to be pronounced different ways. My family pronounce it as Burgess. Some others pronounce it as Burgess. Yeah, that's how I pronounced it. I thought you might say something else. I don't know, Burgeis, or one of those family names where it's like, oh no, it's Burkus. Something like that. Gina, I'm so out of touch with who's in trend. I might as well be living under a rock. Yeah. Yep. Yosef, nice. And we were talking about this earlier, that one of the issues of why we couldn't figure out that it was Yosef on the grave was because whoever did the inscription probably didn't know Hebrew. And so what should have been the Samets were actually the mems that go at the end of the word. So it made it seem like it was like, Bemi bought Yometh. Like, what? So I don't know Hebrew well enough to figure that out, but my friend Laser Mishalovin, he was the one that figured it out. Adam Scott, quick question. Are there any places I could find notations or certain references on any sites I'm tracing the history of an ancestor who was a successful painter in the 1800s in Germany? That's an interesting one. The thing that I would look into is, number one, if he was a painter in Germany, where in Germany, and then look for the archives and museums and places in that area that may have records from the time that he was painting, and just contact them and see. Because if he was a painter in that area, then, the place that he'd most likely be the most well known would be the area that he was. So in my family, my Nunes Vaz family, we have a famous painter in the family named Italo Nunes Vaz. But not everybody, or he's one of those painters where he's not like crazy well known, but in Tuscany, Italy, as far as I know, he is decently well known. So here is just Googling him, Italo Nunes Vaz. And from what I understand, I guess his whole, his thing was very, realistic life paintings. Let's just show images. And so with, realistic life paintings, he basically was painting kind of, photographs of what life was like at that time. And this family was both in Livorno, and this is the side of my family who is in Tunisia. And so a lot of the scenes that he paints are actually in Tunisia. And I think elsewhere in North Africa as well. So he's a very interesting painter. So when I was researching him, that was the thing that I did, was I, for one, kind of Googled him and stuff, but, looked into, what museums and what, archives and things like that are in Tuscany that hold records for around the time where he was living, which is 1860, 1932, which is a lot of stuff. So, if you're looking at a very different time period, let's say, 1801 to 1870 something, you might be looking at different archives. Okay. It's glitching out there for a second. Hopefully all of that came through. Ziegel is probably a nickname. They had local nicknames because the locals were not able to pronounce the Hebrew names. Well, no, Ziegel's, I don't think that's the case, because this is Okay, I'm back. So, all right. Sorry about that. I'm back. All right. I don't think that's necessarily the case. With Ziegel, for one, it's on. We have it on two stones where they died over 10 years apart. One stone, Israel Ziegel Ekoff, and on the one, I mean, both of these stones, there were no errors, as opposed to the first stone that we were looking at with my third great grandmother Bessie, where there were a lot of errors. So those two stones were probably made locally within the community, which, remember, this is a southern New Jersey Jewish community. This is, it's in Alliance and all that. It's a lot of Jews. So throughout the cemetery, there are a few graves where the inscriptions are wrong, but very few. So I'm guessing it's very rarely that they had issues with that. So I don't know. It's possible. You could be right, but I think Ziegel was more than likely a middle name and not a nickname. Interestingly enough, Israel, the two Israel Ziegels. So there's Israel Ziegel Ekoff, and then there's Israel Ziegel, the great grandfather of Israel Ziegel Ekoff. But the younger one, Israel, the Ekoff, he in English records was known as Israel Raphael Ekoff. So that one was really interesting. And then what's on top of that makes it interesting is there's a family story about a family name that sounds kind of similar to Ziegel. I'm not going to get into it now because it's something I want to kind of keep under wraps as a possible future video, but it all kind of ties into that. So it's possible, but I don't know. When is the next family tree for YouTubers video online? Hopefully soon. I'm already on the outline of it. I'm so behind on so much on the main channel videos. I honestly have been hating on myself for how bad I've been with actually getting them out. And I've been hoping to get them out so much quicker. And like the next video that'll be coming out is my video about my trip to Europe. It became such a long video because it was a 17-day trip that I covered. Granted, some of the days I kind of go through like that. But I ended up recording it. It took me 3 hours to record the first half. Well, not 3, it was like 2.5 hours, but still. So I recorded the first half and I was like, okay, I have to split this video up into two. So I'm editing the first half. So my plan is as soon as I finish this first half of the Europe video, I'm going to get the second part of the Europe video out, and then should be the next YouTuber Family Trees video. And I'll go ahead and just say it because I think I've said it already. The next one's going to be on Joseph Hall Patton, the cynical historian. The cynical historian. So, yeah. Nick, I was wondering, do Jews circumcise their sons only on the 8th day, or can it also be earlier or later? So can I know the date of birth by the date of circumcision? Now, I'm probably not necessarily the best person to ask on this because I don't know all of the rules. And this is the type of thing that may vary depending on the minchag, but I don't know for sure. And this kind of gets into the realm of, really knowing the Jewish religion in depth. And, while I am Jewish, I'm a very good example of an American Reform Jew where I guess I'd be considered much more secular. And I really don't know as much of the in-depth rules to be halakhically whatever. And like, even this week while I was in Alliance for Pesach, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. Cause in the first 2 days of Passover, there's a lot, there's a lot of stuff you're not supposed to really do. And so it was like my whole time I was like, wait, am I allowed to do that? Am I allowed to do this? And like, it was like, I wasn't sure when and where, So, but that is a very interesting question because, yeah, it's one of those things where I know it's something with 7 or 8 days before you can do it. And then, once you have the circumcision, then that's when you kind of get the official name and all of that. So I don't know the exact details, but it certainly does seem like something that if you have circumcision information, you could kind of get a general idea based off of that of when the birth date might be. I remember an interview that Ralph Macchio did. He was told that it could be a K sound, but he said that his family had it has the CH sound. Oh, so yeah, Macchio. Okay. Maven, I have a somewhat famous painter in my family, but I did his entire genealogy because nobody had touched it before. Not uncommon, not uncommon. Right now, I'm trying to help an aunt trace her Jewish line. We think she's related to a guy whose surname is Kresh Schindler, Schindler being his mother's surname. Very interesting. It's being a hard task, but I will not give up. Good luck. Good luck. Here in Catalonia, around 1500, the letter X was used to refer to the letter J. Interesting. Video. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Don't worry, people. I'm back. Fine, get into that. All right. Let's see. Thank you. Could Ziegel be the surname of the mother or the mother's mother so the name can be passed on? So that's one of the things that I wasn't sure about. And this is where that family story I kind of am referring to plays in is Ziegel may have been the last name. And it's uncommon on Jewish gravestones to have the surname written in Hebrew. But on multiple stones for my family in Alliance, the surname is written in Hebrew. So as an example, my great-grandfather's brother, Israel Zelig Ekoff, it's written Israel Zelig Ekoff. So it certainly could be on Rebecca's stone, Rivka, daughter of Israel Zelig, meaning that that was her maiden name. Yeah. I can tell you from my family, they all had Hebrew names, for example, Leah, Chaim, etc., but also a nickname on their tombs. Their full name, including a nickname, is written, for example, Chaim Carol Cohen. Yeah, I mean, there's, different variations on all that kind of stuff. And, you get, like, in my family, we have some graves where it shows, son of Bear, Dove Bear. And others, it's just son of Bear or son of just Dove, or, Svi Hirsch obviously is a very common one. Shlomo Zalman, a very common one, all of those. Lots of variations on them. So, that's one of the interesting things too, is when it comes to Hebrew gravestones, it's not always a one size fits all. There's a largely, general guideline rule that you can fall into. But then, like in Alliance, and this is one of the things that Laser was telling me as he was transcribing it is, there's a lot of interesting things with what's on these stones, including there's, Yiddish sayings where that's not usually the case. But then on the same side, you have like Sephardic cemeteries where the stones are very different. And, in Alliance, there's a lot of things that are very different than your typical Hebrew stones as well. So, always something to consider everything. Yeah. But I don't know if it would really be a nickname sort of thing. Yeah. What's happening with the Generations TV show? Been waiting on that a while. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really a part of the show, although I have been kind of saying, hey, why don't you have me part of it? Because Brad Pomerantz, who is the host of the show, is someone that I hung out with a bit at Roots Tech. Very, very cool guy. We had a lot of connections. My mom used to own a toy store in Los Angeles when I was a little kid. And he's the first person I've met in person who remembered the store. In fact, he lived off of the same street that the store was on. Granted, it was, kind of a big street, and he, I think, lived on a different part, but still. So I don't know what the deal is. For those who are not familiar, Jewish Life TV is coming out with their own show called Generations TV, or not Generations TV. I think it's just called Generations. And it's just that same concept of doing family tree ancestry research for celebrities. In this case, obviously, specifically Jewish celebrities. The first celebrity they have was someone who was from Law and Order. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it, but I don't know when it's coming out. Unless for medical reason or otherwise, yes, it's on day 8. Extreme reasons to postpone our sick baby, but really sick, not like a cold. And then, Bervar can often be delayed if the baby has jaundice or other medical condition, but using the birth date is a good estimate for the month or so. Yeah, kind of similar when I did a lot of research in the Sephardic cemetery in Amsterdam, Ouderkerk aan de Amstel, or Bethlehem Ouderkerk aan de Amstel. For a lot of the records that we don't have a death date, we have a burial date. But the community largely would bury their dead within 2 days. So we would always get a general idea of, well, if the burial date is this day, then, past 1 to 3 days sort of range, but largely 2 days. Yeah. Nick, thanks. You're welcome. Karma, I should use Google Translate or some of the stones in the connecting Jewish section of the cemetery my great-grandfather's next to. I've seen Hebrew on some of them. Yeah, one of the interesting things with Jewish stones that's kind of annoying on Find a Grave and Billion Graves is you get a lot of people who only speak English and don't do Jewish genealogy, and they'll take photos of the grave and specifically crop out the Hebrew, or take the photo where it's just the name really zoomed in. Or another common one, which I had happen with my great-great-grandfather's stone, was, there'll be English on one side and Hebrew on the other, and they only take a photograph of the English side, which really is annoying because the Hebrew side almost always has the father's name. The English side won't. So for a lot of people, the Hebrew is what actually helps you get back in your ancestry, not just like, oh, cool, this is the stone, which is very typical of non-Jewish gravestones. You don't really get a lot of genealogical information from gravestones beyond just a birth date and a death date. But for my second great-grandfather, someone had taken a photograph of the front of his stone, which was English, but I knew for a fact it had Hebrew on the back. And I even sent them a message, and they sent me a message back saying, oh no, for sure, if it had Hebrew, it would, I would have taken it. And I was like, well, you must have missed it, because I know for a fact it has Hebrew, because I did have a picture from like a relative who had taken a photo of it when they had visited the cemetery, but this was like years ago. So it was like really out of focus and we couldn't read it very well. And so, it was something that like I never even wanted to put on Find a Grave, because once you have a photo on Find a Grave, then, you can't really request a photo. And I wanted to have a good quality photo, not a really bad one. And then unfortunately, it took a while, and finally, like I put a re-request in, and finally someone went and fulfilled that request. You are right. It can be many things, but the one thing is that this is a name that relative identified as, be as a nickname on the daily or just on their papers, they identified as those names. Yes. Isn't Generation supposed to be found on Freevee? See, they haven't announced a date of when it's going to be out, but yes, I believe you can watch it through Freevee. If you just look up where you can watch Jewish Life TV, JLTV, then you can find where it's gonna be. All right, let's see. I've been talking so long. I wanted to end around 4:30, and I'm over 17 minutes. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick look through some of these if there's anything to answer or respond to. Yeah, that's always good to hear. Yeah, I wish everyone kind of understand that. Yeah, same with Chinese headstones. They contain so much information. Yeah, is it the Chinese that have the steles is what they're called, and it's almost like basically like a family monument that's a genealogy, just a genealogy monument for a family. All Chinese headstones have these details. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So, all right. Well, with that, thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out with me today. Truly appreciate it. Hopefully, I'll see a bunch of you next week. Like I said before, if you have suggestions on which celebrity you'd like me to build their tree next week, definitely let me know. But otherwise, you all have a wonderful rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend. And hopefully I'll have some new videos out to you on the main channel soon enough. I'm taking so long. I'm so sorry. All right, everybody. I'm out. Bye.